Hello and welcome back to Podcast with a K. I'm your host, Carla with a K, finally back in the studio. You're listening to WECS 90.1 FM, and we have so much to tell you. And by we, I mean me, because it's just me in the studio today for the foreseeable future, which I guess should be update number 1. So, hello to any new listeners. As I said, this is Podcast with a K. I'm your host, Carla with a K. I'm also president of Radio Club here at Eastern Connecticut State University, where we broadcast out of, and the on-air studio manager for the station. Nice to meet you. Hope you're having a good evening, and I hope your week went well. It's been a while. It has been a while. The last live show here took place, I want to say, around the date of like March 15th or whenever that was, that we all had to be unceremoniously removed from campus due to, the virus. I'm currently trying to bring back the same vibe, the same energy that we had here in the studio last semester, last time you heard anything. We had our first live DJ back in the studio this morning. I let him go ahead and run his show as a test, and everything went swimmingly, so I was like, well, why not give it a run myself? Live shows will be returning tomorrow morning, depending on whether or not our student DJs are ready to broadcast finally once more. This will be, I guess, the first step, the first changes to what you've been listening to. I know the station has been mostly playing WNPR, which is Connecticut's national public radio station, and every now and then some community members have been pre-recording their shows, so you've gotten to hear them if you've been a long-time listener. But yeah, student shows are back. Hopefully, like I said, I hope the DJs are ready, and we'll be getting some new voices in the studio soon, once everyone gets their training done and everyone gets their shows started again. And hopefully we'll be back up and running real soon. I'm excited to hear more from our DJs in these upcoming days as everyone gets back into the studio. But I think the biggest change you're going to notice is a lack of guests. Because unfortunately, due to the current pandemic, the way that's set up, we can't really have a lot of people in a closed space for extended periods of time. There'll be an hour between shows to allow for people to sanitize the station and the equipment and for proper air exchange. And any guest that you hear in the studio will be through a virtual format or a pre-recorded format, so you might hear some differences in sound quality with people not using the same studio provided microphones, but you know what, it's fine because the show must go on, and this show is indeed going on. So without further ado, let's get right into it. And first up, what I have for you is a song that got sent to the station over the summer, which I was excited about because I'd recently found out about it on Twitch of all platforms. There was a streamer I was watching who said a buddy had sent him some new music, so he showed it off, and it was really good. And then, lo and behold, a couple months later, the station gets contacted with these tracks, and I was like, oh snap, that's cool. So here is that. I'm gonna let you guys listen to Bad Luck by Thugless. Who, like I said, really cool that we got those tracks, because I had just been listening to that over the summer because of all things Twitch. And in case you didn't know, because you don't follow me on social media or anything, I'm currently trying to stream this to Twitch, which I don't know if that benefits anyone listening to the radio live unless you're at home, because I know a lot of the traffic we get to this site is like not from the state, so I don't know where people are listening from. but I know my boss told me that a lot of the listeners that we do get are just people like in their cars, which I don't know how he knows that, or if he's just guessing, or if he's just assuming, but what he says is essentially law, so I guess I'll trust him. But yeah, that's that. Those are all the updates I have on the studio. I'll be going back on air to talk about more of the operations-based type stuff Tuesday at, I want to say 12:30. I should probably check that and make sure. But I'll be going on with one of our community members via phone call, obviously, because I can't be in the studio, even though I'm in the studio right now. Haha. But yeah, I'll be back if you guys want to listen to more stuff about how we're running the station. But enough about that. Let's get into some more interesting discussion topics, shall we? That's what I'm here for. I'm going to have to stop saying because I've been called out for doing this. I tried for a while to not say it and just kind of like do the thing where you just like pause and act like you're thinking about stuff. But I feel like it just sounds more sluggish, like I'm distracted, or like if I don't want to actually be talking. So you guys are going to have to deal with the ums if they occur, because now I'm self-conscious about it. That's all I'm going to be thinking about. But what I really wanted to talk about today was concerts in the in the time of coronavirus. Wow, we love a good alliteration and a flawless segue, if I do say so myself. But today, if you didn't know, if you missed it all over the internet, all over everyone's Snapchat stories and Twitter, or if you just for some reason managed to go your entire life without following the group of people that was excited tonight about a Bad Bunny virtual concert. That happened. I think it was, well, I saw it on Instagram in a caption, and then I forgot about it, and then someone mentioned it in class the other day to like someone else in passing, and I was like, oh yeah, that was the thing that was happening. And so I looked it up and I was like, oh, it's on Sunday. Cool. So that's what I did today. In the morning I scripted this show, which if you were listening live, you probably can't tell that this is scripted at all, or that I have endless show notes on my phone. But yeah, virtual concert. It was online. I think it was like Euphoria Music or something. But there was like 3 like hosts, I want to say. And at first they were just talking endlessly. And everyone was like, yo, is Bad Bunny going to be late to his own show? Because the man has a habit of showing up late. I went to see him last year, September or October, I don't remember. And he was like over an hour late to his own show. No opening act. He was just late. So everyone was like, yo, is he going to be late to his own thing? So yeah, the hosts were just like introducing it, talking about it. And then there were like intermittent clips of him like doing an interview about like what led him to the decision to make the virtual concert thing. And then finally we have the big reveal, and it's Bad Bunny on top of a bus just riding around New York City. He started off at the stadium and then went through the Bronx and then ended up outside some hospital, I think, and like he was honoring like the essential workers that for everything that they've done. And we saw the interviewers out on the street, or not the interviewers, the hosts out on the street. So like overall it was like pretty interesting to see. At first everyone was like, oh, so like so that's it, like this is all he's gonna do, he's just gonna sing on top of a bus. But we had also, I think they were live. I'm not sure. Me and one of my roommates were discussing this. At first she was more skeptic than I was. I was like, well, why wouldn't they be live? You know, we live in the 21st century. But she looked it up and then she was like, oh wait, actually I think it was live. But he had like live collabs with Sech and who else was it? I don't know. I forgot. There was so much happening. There were like 2 or 3 other like collabs for songs that he has other artists featured in. And so you got to see it like split screen. He would be on the left on his bus, like dancing around while the other artist sang. But like as the show went on, it did get more hype. And like once it got dark, you could actually see that he had like lights and stuff on his bus, and it was exciting. And the funniest thing was that you saw like people on the streets like realize, oh dude, that's Bad Bunny, and like start following the bus. And like obviously it's driving, right? So like they can't keep up with him the whole way, but like whenever people would drop off, other people would like pick up in that crowd and just keep following along with the bus. And it was insane. J Balvin was on there too at some point. Yeah, thank you, Monica, for texting me that. But it was so funny. And then at the end, when the bus finally stopped in like the area of like that hotel, you see like this huge crowd, right? Which I think kind of defeated the purpose of having a virtual concert. But like clearly this is why they didn't announce the show that it was happening. I remember seeing like rumors, I guess, not a lot, just a few people like speculating that it would be in LA. So for it to have been in NYC, first of all, anything happening in NYC live, like in public, is already insane, right? And then for it to be like one of the biggest artists on the scene right now, just on every street, because like I said, they were driving him around. It was crazy. And so yeah, like a huge crowd gathered, and then you saw obviously like people are hyped at this point. People don't care. People are recording. People are having the time of their lives. But I remember the hosts, one of them's just holding his mask, and the lady like took hers off to like pose for like pictures and stuff. And my roommate's like, what was the whole point of this being virtual? I was like, ooh, tea. But I mean, it's obviously would have been a lot different if they had announced it, right? It would have been a lot more people. It's different than them having done like the concert in person. But I don't know, I was excited for it to happen and to see how it would go. And it went pretty smoothly. Didn't notice very much of any technical difficulties. About halfway through, they did cut like the feed and go back to interviews and the host talking. I don't know if they were just like driving to the next part of town, or if the guy was just taking a break or something. But I mean, overall, like we did get a pretty good like 2-ish hours of a show. And at the end, they were talking about like how it was very deliberately a secret because they knew that the crowds would gather. So, you know, good on them. I'm just wondering what the aftermath was. But I mean, I'm not here to to critique it. I'm mostly here to celebrate it because I love seeing how people are like being creative with this. And the thing I would be most amazed by, because again, I don't actually know if it was live collabs, but like if that was actually live feeds from both artists, that's impressive. That's really, really freaking cool. But yeah, so that was that. And I wish so badly that I had guests in the studio, because right now I would love to hear what other people thought of it. But I mean, I guess you can tune in on Twitch and join the chat there, or text me if you have my number, or Snapchat me. I'm on all social media. You already know this. But yeah, it was pretty cool. I was excited about it. And like I said, towards the end, you saw that everyone was getting more like comfortable with how the production, shall we call it, was going. Bad Bunny himself seemed a lot more like in his element. At first, he seemed just kind of like wary of it, but then at the end, you saw him like interacting with his crowd. And like the man's a performer, so like obviously, I think having the crowd isn't desired, but it wasn't not welcome. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see how this influences or impacts the future of I guess concerts, because we really don't know. I don't know. There doesn't seem to be an end in sight anytime soon, but I'm excited to see where this goes and what this causes. I have seen, and I will talk about this later, because boy, have I got some stuff to talk about. But I have seen, you know, different artists trying different ways to be able to perform live still, and this is a really, really cool way. I don't know if it's going to be sustainable, because again, the crowds gathered so quickly. He was on the road for a couple of hours, and by the end, like, it looked like the whole block was starting to like gather for him. But yeah, that was cool. And so on the topic of Bad Bunny and crowds and how one should behave during these times, I got another song for y'all, and it's En Casita, Bad Bunny, featuring Gabriela, who is his girl, who I think they're engaged now. Congratulations at Bad Bunny and Gabriela, if for some reason you found this one station in Connecticut. So we're not that far from New York. I don't know, maybe you're driving through. Either way, here's another song for y'all. Let me go ahead and pull that up, and then we'll talk more music news. So here is En Casita, Bad Bunny and Gabriela. I'm trying to not have to wear a mask everywhere. The sooner y'all cooperate, the better. This has been your podcast approved PSA. You're welcome. But back to the music talk, because that's what I want to talk about. Yeah. Virtual concerts are one way to do it. I saw a lot of Instagram lives. I saw a lot of Twitch streams. I saw a lot of YouTube lives. And it was fun, I guess, hanging out in chat. But, like, it does get chaotic whenever it's a big artist and there's, like, 10,000 viewers at a time, right? You can't really say anything. All you see is emojis, like, flying by. But I think what I've seen the most, like, I don't want to say, like, tea about. I'm starting to sound like my roommate. Amen. This is a direct attack. Amen. You've contagious me by saying tea after every single sentence. But the thing I've seen the most, like, I guess, discussion about is the concept of, like, drive-in concerts. And I have a couple of things I want to touch on, because I, for one, am a fan of it, because I saw movie theaters were doing this as well. And, like, I don't know, the whole drive-in aesthetic might be why I'm, like, drawn to it. But it does seem like a good idea, right? Like, you're in your car, you're in your own, like, little pod, you're breathing your own air, etc. And, like, if you have your windows down, like, it's just normal air, right? But then you have different, I don't want to say incidents, because that makes it sound more serious than it is. And I guess it is serious, but you have different situations in which things don't go as planned. So, for example, you have, like, Bad Bunny doing his virtual concert. Great, fine. Crowds gather as they found out where he was, but that's because he was doing a virtual concert, but in public, right? Unannounced, like, where he would be, but he was in the public. And of course, people are going to recognize him on a big silver bus that has his logo flashing all over it. I guess the alternative would just be, like, perform on your own, like, in a sound stage or in your garage, bring back garage bands or something. But then you have artists like Chase Rice who do a full concert. You have mad crowds, and then you have the man actually, like, saying that nothing's going to stop him from performing, that he's not scared, that why should he change his behavior because of something he can't control, which, of course, the answer to this is, it's like, it's not just about you, fam. Like, even if you're perfectly fine and you never suffer a day in your life, like, your actions could affect so many other people, because each person has their own network of people they're in contact with, which is where it gets messy, right? Because if I'm sitting here and I'm perfectly fine, I only see my 4 roommates. I don't know who they all see during the day, right? They might see one person, they might see a million people, but what's to say that one person that they see isn't, like, immunocompromised and isn't going to be, like, the one that gets hit the hardest, right? Like, why should they suffer because I wanted to go to a country music concert? Which, like, what's up with that at Chase Rice? And, like, you did have people within the country music scene criticizing him, which I thought was interesting, because usually, not to say anything about country music artists, but you usually get a very, like, specific type of, like, mentality within the genre. So I guess it's been interesting and, like, pleasantly surprising to see this level of accountability, question mark. I hate buzzwords. Y'all know this. I don't know what other words to use right now. I've just been reading all these articles. Like, that's, like, the speech that stuck in my mind. But you also got Brad Paisley, who is a country music artist, and he did a drive-in concert, and everything went swimmingly. I think he called it a drive-through concert, but essentially, like, people pulled up in their cars, performance is going on, everything went great, everything went well, and he, like, did his little, like, speech about, like, you know, being responsible, being considerate, etc. But you also had the Chainsmokers doing a drive-in concert, but in their case, people got out of their cars, crowded at the stage. I don't think it was 2,000. I think it was like 200 or so people that were calculated to have been hanging around the stage, like, trying to get to the front, which, again, defeats the whole purpose of a drive-in concert, right? So you do get, like, a different reaction, I guess, from each crowd, but, like, I think this is probably one of the cooler ideas that I've seen. It's not bad, right? Like, I guess you would pay for car, which would kind of change how pricing works, but, like, if you go with a full car, like, it should be cheaper than if you went on your own to a concert. just like in a normal venue. But I guess that also depends on the artist and the venue. But I don't know. I'm not against this. Again, people getting out of their cars and going to the stage is kind of against the whole purpose of doing it in this format. But seeing that there have been other like drive-in concerts that have occurred and have gone well is pretty cool to see. I think this is a good alternative for people who don't want to just like sit in their living room with the laptop or TV up, just like watching somebody perform. Because like, I mean, for that, you could just watch a music video, right? Like, why would you want to pay for a virtual concert? Which, again, props to Bad Bunny for making it free. That was, I think, the highlight of it all, that I could watch it for free from my living room while I had dinner and scripted the show. BB Dubs, what's up? But I guess this is a good segue into mentioning that there are other bands also looking into this alternative. For example, Arizona, who I've talked about on the show several times, big favorite. They'll be in Butler, Pennsylvania. I think it's October 17th. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's it. I'm excited for that to occur and go well. Definitely look into that because it'll be a worthwhile show. And yeah, any other artists or any other bands that are doing something of the likes, let me know, because I very much enjoy keeping up with how this all goes. And I know we've gotten people contact the studio about like different ways that they could perform like for WECS, because we do have like so this is the on-air studio. We also have a live studio and a recording studio in which we've had bands in the past come and like do a live set with different DJs who do more of like a music interview type show. But that's just not an option at this point, because that would be a lot of people, again, in a small enclosed space and a lot of equipment to have to sanitize. But we have had bands reach out about different ways that they could continue like the live format instead of having to like pre-record stuff. But I don't know, I think there's just a different element to going to a place and seeing a performance happen in front of you. You know, it just makes it a little bit more real. I'm not going to say closer to normal, because it's not. Who would have ever thought drive-in concerts would be a thing? I don't know, have those been the thing in the past? Am I just like not aware of this? Let me know. I don't know why I'm asking, as if I had a guest in the studio to answer the question. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like if this has happened in the past, great, cool. Gives it a nice little retro vibe to it. It makes it more reminiscent of times past. And if this is a new thing, I'm all here for it. Like I said, I'm a fan of the drive-in aesthetic, but that might just be me and my obsession with retro nonsense. But I did also want to mention that this is a very, very cool alternative to simply just, you know, postponing your show with no resuming dates in mind, which brings us to, I think we talked about it before the show ended last season, before we all went home. I think we mentioned a little bit about how the whole, like, I don't remember which one it was, but I wouldn't be surprised it was every single ticket company ever, about how they were canceling shows for obviously because now crowds aren't allowed, but the refunds weren't made available to the people who bought the tickets unless the show was outright canceled. Shows that were postponed, whether or not they had new dates set, those people didn't get their money back. And I think I saw that by April, maybe around, I want to say 20,000 events had been suspended, which is insane, right? Like, that's a lot of people whose money is just like held up in tickets if they weren't able to get it back. I know, for example, Bad Bunny was supposed to tour here, and so imagine if like you saw that he was doing a free show and you know you still hadn't gotten your money back for a show that you were supposed to see in person that just wasn't going to happen anymore, right? And then you also have the issue of like cancellation fees, and then just like all of the processing fees in general, which is insane. Like I said, whenever I went to go see Bastille, me and my roommate, because we went to see it together, we got one of our friends that lived here in the state to go to the actual box office just so we wouldn't have to pay those fees, and we'd be able to like get quicker service should anything have to change. But it's so annoying to like hear that people still have their money tied up, especially like as some artists, maybe it's not the artist, maybe it's the people in charge of their whole touring thing, but like I've seen some that have just kept like pushing back the dates more and more and more and more, and I'm like, dude, at this point just give people their money back. Like cancel this show, plan a new show. As I said, the drive-in show thing, it's happening, it's blowing up, it's starting to like be a thing. Like that's capital T, trademark at the end type thing, right? You know what I'm saying? But like, I mean, who am I to tell them what to do, right? I'm just Carla with a K on podcast with a K. I don't know if anyone of them would be listening, especially not Sunday at 11. But that's my viewpoint on that. I know it's like super annoying to like not know what's coming next, both on the artist and on the fan side, but like be fair, right? Like, and again, this is also in part like I think it's Ticketmaster, right, that had this be a thing because they changed the wording of their refund policy. It used to say that people could get refunds for cancellation, postponed dates, or suspended shows, and they changed the wording on it to just say like outright just cancellations. And they tried to like defend themselves by saying, oh, this is always what we meant, the wording was just confusing before. And I'm like, no, they completely mean different things. Like just give people their money back. But I don't know, in general I already am not a fan because, like I said, processing fees. Do I look like you just click a button and you print my ticket, that's it, which I know it's not that simple. Please nobody come for me for this. But yeah, anyway, I guess on the topic of Arizona and in honor of that show coming up, I'll go ahead and segue into one final song for the night because I can see that we've reached it's almost quarter till midnight. Anyone? Which will be our final song, just saying. But I'm gonna go ahead and give y'all one more track, which is one of my favorite tracks. And the reason I added it to this show is because it's been stuck in my head all week for no reason, because I haven't listened to it recently. But here is Arizona's remix of Passionfruit, which is only available on Spotify, which, speaking of, Podcast with a K is now available on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and a bunch of other stuff thanks to Anchor FM. So if you search Podcast with a K, those should all come up. And if not, I have them linked in the YouTube playlist, which I'm sure you all have subscribed to my YouTube channel and followed the playlist if you're here. But yeah, here is that Arizona's remix of Drake's Passionfruit. That was Arizona's take on Passionfruit. Again, it's so good. I was gonna use the live version from Bonnaroo because I was gonna, I'm talking about like live shows and stuff, but I couldn't get it to download. Not that I'm downloading things from YouTube because that's not allowed, but again, I did think I'd be using my laptop, which the Wi-Fi here is not the greatest, but I am glad that's been working perfectly because sometimes that computer gives me trouble. But you guys aren't here to listen to to me struggling with computers. But yeah, I don't know. That's what's been on my mind. I've been thinking a lot about like concerts and stuff, especially ever since being back here and setting up the studio for people to bring their shows back, because I don't know, there's just a different element to having that live interaction. And like I said, I have this up on Twitch because like I do miss having guests. Like guests I think are an integral part of my show and of a lot of shows. Like even just people who like call in, like that's a staple of like live radio, right? But I don't know, it's gonna be quite the adjustment. Monica keeps mentioning Jojo Siwa did a virtual concert Why is this important for me to mention? I don't know if the audience of the podcast is particularly interested in JoJo Siwa, but if you are, she did a virtual concert. Thank you, Mo, for this information. I will say something that I've also thought about is how like this whole pandemic thing is gonna shift like kids' perspectives of the world, because like they're gonna grow up thinking like having a global crisis is just like everyday Tuesday at this rate, which is not to say that's not my overall outlook on life right now, but it seems like it's one thing after another, huh? But I don't know. Again, this is totally off topic, and this is why I need guests to keep me on track, because again, bouncing off conversation, I was talking about live music, but I am intrigued to see how we managed to make that happen here, because before everything happened, we had so much planned. We were gonna bring Willie Stock back, which, if you don't know, was a like mini music festival that we did here. We had local bands come in and perform outside, have food, have merch, like just have essentially a concert for the school, but cooler because it was like more bands and not just like one artist. But we had different people lined up, both people that like we had reached out to and people who had reached out to us. And we had some bands that like there was a mutual like conversation going on for a while, not just with us that were here last semester, but like with DJs that we'd had like through the years. So we had everything set up so well, and I did talk to some of them it's not over the summer, but it was over like the initial quarantine period back in March, and they're all still interested. Most of them, I will say. There was one that wouldn't be in the state anymore, but most of them, which I guess doesn't matter if everything's virtual. So, okay, all of them were interested in working something out, because there is, again, like I said, there is a live studio here. And if concerts are to become a thing again, I feel like it would be really cool to have these bands actually finally get to do their thing. We'd get to use all the stuff that we'd had planned before. And some of them have been interviewed on air. So the community already knows of them, and we've had people reach out like wondering like when that was going to happen, because we did tease with one band having them come and do a live set here. But again, it didn't get to happen. But I don't know. I am optimistic to be able to still work with some of the bands that we'd been in contact with. It's just a matter of figuring out how to actually make it happen and in what format, because like I said, the whole virtual thing is cool, but it's not super exciting when you're just sitting there, or like even just like on your phone, you just have it pulled up in the background because like you get distracted. Like I said, I didn't even notice there was a whole technical difficulty thing during the Bad Bunny thing, which I was watching, or I guess quote unquote watching, because I completely missed it. But I did see him have to duck under a tunnel and a street light, and then he high-fived a street light and then had to immediately duck under a tree. It was super, super funny to watch. But I don't know. It was a good show. Overall, I'm excited to see what the future brings for live music, even though it's obviously not like ideal. But I'm wondering if there's anything that's gonna be like any concept that's gonna be brought to life that's gonna become a part of concerts. Like I said, I think drive-in concerts are a move, especially for like big like outdoor shows, because there's a few venues back in my home state, at least, that I know of, that are mostly just like outside and people just like sit in the grass or something. But like if you're far away from the stage, like at that point, like you're just having a picnic and there's someone like playing guitar like just in the field over there, right? But if they were to like incorporate the drive-in thing, like I feel like people could get in and everyone's like organized in little like blocks, which would perhaps make that a more enjoyable situation. But I don't know what I'm talking about. I think that would be a cool concept to see continue without the restrictions, I guess, of the pandemic. who knows, maybe someday the Chainsmokers can do a drive-in show again where it's not a controversy that people got out of the stage and crowded the front as usual. But overall, that's been my 2 cents that nobody asked for, but that you all tune in to listen to every Sunday at 11, regardless. As I've said, I'm super, super excited to be back in the studio. I'm working on being able to, I guess, have virtual guests, because that is a big, big part of the show. Like, the title of every episode is literally just podcast with a K featuring whoever, because that's what I like to do, is feature people's opinions and interests, because you guys could all sit here and listen to me, but if you already know me, then you already get to listen to this anyway. So like, what I wanted to do with the show is still what I want to keep doing, which is highlight what other people care about. Like, we've talked about everything from conspiracy theories to like advances in biology to technology to, like, you've heard all day today, is just music talk, politics, like everything and anything that you could talk about with somebody. It's come up in conversation here, even if it's not scripted. And that's what I want to bring back. Like today, whenever I first posted about bringing the show back, and even Friday when I just posted a picture of the soundboard, I immediately got questions. Who's the guest? Who's the first guest? Who's the next guest? Because that's like what the show's about, was me trying to like learn from others. Because I'm a firm believer that you can learn something from every conversation that you have with somebody else, even if what you learn is just like, I don't want to have another conversation with you. Like, you still do get to learn something, and you get to learn a different perspective on something you may not have considered before. So, like I said, virtual guests are still a thing. I will go ahead and tell you, if this is something that for some reason you wondered, the best platform as of right now, Discord. 100%, followed closely by Google Hangouts, especially if you're trying to stream to an external source, because like if you try to use Facebook Messenger or like WebEx or Zoom, I think it was just Zoom, maybe not WebEx, only one thing can use your microphone at a time, unless you have like a whole setup with a bunch of stuff. But if you're just me and you have a fancy soundboard and one laptop, you need something that's able to like feed into different sources. Not sources, I'm using the wrong terminology. I can envision the like different windows in my mind, but Google Hangouts and Discord are ideal, because the others would give me errors where either my voice wouldn't go through the stream, or the guest voice wouldn't go through the stream, or video, or both, or none. It was just a nightmare. Although the finale of Quarantine with a K, which is how I continued my show over break, was catastrophic, because we tried to use every single platform, because this kid originally we couldn't get Google Duo is the worst. Google Duo was by far the worst attempt that I ever made to like have a virtual guest. But everything that could go wrong did go wrong. We couldn't get my audio on his side, and then we couldn't get his voice to feed through my like actual headphones. Like, it was on the stream, but I couldn't hear what he was saying. And then by the end, the call kept dropping for no reason, because we both had like pretty decent connection. I ended up just picking up my old phone and just FaceTime call and just holding up the phone to the camera and to the microphone. And that's how we signed off for the night, because I was like, dude, I am so over trying to figure this out, because we'd gotten disconnected from WebEx times you out after 40 minutes, and you can rejoin a room. But I had to like reset, because I did this all I think I did this all via Streamlabs onto YouTube, and I had to like, for some reason, reset like the screen capture every single time to be able to capture audio and video from WebEx. And it was just, at this point, way too annoying to have to deal with every single time. So like I said, FaceTime, and just held it up to the camera, because it was a lot. But I wonder how that's going to work here, because like I said, I plugged in the laptop to try to feed in the sound that you're hearing, like the music and all that stuff, and even that wouldn't play. Although I'm seeing that there's a red light on the mode instead of a green one, as it usually is. So that's cool. That's work for my office hours tomorrow. But yeah, hopefully virtual guest. Again, I'm rambling because I have no guest to bounce conversation off of right now other than, a chat. But yeah, I'm excited because I did discuss these potential options with a few people kind of closer to my return to campus, although once I got here, shows hadn't resumed yet. Like I said, this is the first day that people have been actually like in person in the studio. Other than that, it's everything you've heard has been pre-recorded. I don't know if that's like a secret or not, but you're welcome for the inside intel if it was. If not, then, here's your confirmation for that. But yeah, today's the first day that we've been back, so I'm gonna have to get back in contact, see if people are still interested in sitting through an hour of me trying to figure out if this is even gonna work, and if not, then figure out a different way because I still want to have guests. I guess I could just call people on my phone and then just hook up the phone to the aux and just have that be the thing. But again, I'm concerned about sound quality because I love the sound of these microphones and I hate the sound of phone mics. But that's something that I think only I would even care about at this point. Yeah, that's been all of the things on my mind recently. I really do wish that there was a different format for crowd interaction. We have tried using the phone for people to call in before, but it doesn't always work, as we have heard. There was one episode where it went perfectly. We had people call in and give us questions, and we would discuss them and then pick a side, whether or not we agreed with it, and debate it. But that was the one and only time it worked, because the next week we kept getting calls and we would answer, but we couldn't hear them on the phone. And then we also couldn't hear them like on the headsets, which are also a thing we don't have here anymore, because cross-contamination is a thing we have to worry about. No more headsets in the studio. We just check our levels visually and hope for the best, which is why it took me so long to try to figure the music thing out, which is also why I'm super glad that we have an hour between shows, because I was able to get here early and see how that was going to go. In any case, thank you so much for listening. This has been Podcast with a K. I've gone through my entire show notes. That's all I really wanted to talk about and give you guys updates. Like I said, I will be going more in detail about the operations of the station Tuesday around 12:30. Obviously, that DJ will do their own thing and then just call me, or I'll call into the station, I guess. Let me know when I should call into the station and give more information on that. Any DJs that are listening, you guys will get an email with all of the updates. All of them will be printed out in the studio as well. And as I sign off for the night, I want to leave you guys with one more song, which, as I mentioned, is by Bastille. We've listened to Bastille in here before. I just think it's fitting because, it kind of fit the tone. It came out a year or so ago. I saw Bastille, I think it was the 27th of September, and it was for the tour for this album. And the song just happened to be this entire album, the soundtrack for the life we're living right now. So as we wind down for the night, here is Doom Days by Bastille. And I would like to mention that Bastille themselves tweeted, sorry for putting out such a depressing album just as everything descended into madness. Oh, thank goodness there's no ads, because like I said, wasn't able to download all of these tracks. But anyway, enough of my rambling. Here is Doom Days by Bastille. Which, again, fantastic album, fantastic tour. I miss concerts so much, which is why I've dedicated an hour to just talking about, I guess, what the future of live music will be. I'm, like I said, I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic. I just want this to be over. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in to podKast with a K. As I said, I'm Carla with a K, and you've been listening to 90.1 WECS FM. I'll be back next week at the same time on the same station with new nonsense, and hopefully, fingers crossed, if all goes well and the gods smile down upon me, new guests. Have a fantastic week, and I'll see you next time.